Is Bitcoin about to hit new lows? Guys, welcome back to Empire Trading Academy. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you have not already. And let's get into these crypto markets. Guys, it's been a little while since we've done a YouTube. We're going to be getting back on it now. We've had a lot going on, but we're going to keep you updated regularly and with the highest quality technical analysis. Okay, we're going to be looking at a few things. We're looking at Bitcoin first. We're going to be looking at Ethereum. We're going to look at Cardano and just a little bit of the SPY, so we can get a little bit of an indication about what the stock market is doing overall. All right. First and foremost, guys, Bitcoin. Do we think that it is going to hit new lows? Okay, watch until the end of this video and you'll see exactly what I'm looking at. So first and foremost, this is the current structure. We're on the daily time frame here, guys. And we know that our most recent price action is putting in this, let's say, an accumulation type structure. Okay. This structure here, it's playing out a little bit differently across different assets, but this is obviously how it's panning out on Bitcoin. All right. First and foremost, what we're noticing is where we're finding support right here. Okay. On the middle of the bull run, we had a little bit of chop in here. Why do we have a little bit of chop? Because this was our previous high of our previous bull run, okay, in 2017. So this is obviously a big level, okay, especially since the fact that in all of Bitcoin's history, we've never gone ahead and even retested the previous high. So this is significant, okay? Now, we're using it as support, okay? While putting in a relatively recognizable accumulation structure, okay? If we look at the RSI, we have this big positive divergence on the daily time frame again. So daily time frame, high time frame divergences occurring on that are are much stronger than, let's say, lower time frame, 30-minute, 1 hour, okay? And so we're putting this in. And so what we're looking at here is big support. Okay, we kind of have this descending trend line being used as resistance, right, since May. Okay, every time we get up to this level, we have a sell-off. Okay, and using this, so we're kind of creating this this wedge pattern. I like to call it an accumulation. You could, even if you're looking at the weekly, you're looking at it almost like a double bottom here. Double bottom, right? Typical reversal pattern, double bottom on this big positive or bullish divergence. Pretty significant there, okay? Then if we go ahead, we scroll this up, in this structure here, guys, if we look at this volume, we have this increasing volume throughout this structure, okay? So if we just look at this, even if you're not an advanced trader, if we're looking at this increasing volume, this is going to at support. This is logically you're going to say logically, hey, people are accumulating. Volume is starting to come in for a reason, right? And it's not to sell, because most people, especially big players, are not selling at support. Okay, so this is a really big indication. So we have this. We have the positive divergence on both daily time frame and weekly time frame. Okay, being at support. So that's good, okay? First and foremost, we're looking for a retest of this level, okay, on Bitcoin. So we're gonna look for a retest of this level here, roughly 21,000, okay? So we'll look for that. In our opinion, things are looking for a bounce from here, okay? You know, guys, that we've been bearish. We didn't nail the absolute top, okay? But we've been bearish since this first sell-off, okay? And so we've been bearish since roughly 54,000, okay? And have guided you all the way down to this support, continually letting you know that we think that we're in a bearish or a bear market. Now that we're here, we're looking for a short-term bounce. Everybody, including the retail of retail, is now very bearish, okay? And so for us, bigger players, this is when they start to change things and switch things and buy things dirt cheap. Okay. And the structure in the technicals are pointing to that. So look for the retest there. I'm going to be looking for a breakout of this and then a retest of this descending trend line being used as resistance. We'll call it roughly 27,000. Okay. Here we're going to look. No one knows exactly how big the bounce will be if we get a bounce, right? So we'll look at the type of structure that's going to go in here. We'll get some sort of rejection, but do we eventually bump out? Possibly. Okay. Now, ultimately, I still think that we see new lows. Okay. Ultimately, I still think we see these bear market lows of 10,000. All right. But I think that we get a bounce before that. Okay. Sentiment and structure points to that, as well as a bunch of the indicators. Right. Now, I do not want to trade based on this, and I don't want you to make a decision on this either. But the metric down here I use for ETH long and short positions. You'll see that in a second. Okay, this is what I use for ETH. Now this shows up on almost every other coin, but I don't know the person that designed this indicator. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure the ramifications. However, when it's showing up on Bitcoin, all right. I was under the impression that this is a specific ETH indicator for long shorts. Okay. Now, what it is showing on Bitcoin is during the latter stages of this, okay, and especially in this accumulation structure here at support, massive longs being accumulated here. Okay. I mean, the biggest that we've ever seen. Okay. So take this with a little bit of grain of salt. We'll look at it on ETH, but take this with a little bit of grain of salt. It does give us confluence with the structures, technicals that we're seeing and sentiment. All right. So again, take that with a little bit of grain of salt. All right, guys, that's Bitcoin. Let's head on over to ETH. This is the ETH chart. Okay. We're looking at the daily time frame. Sorry, the Wi-Fi is a little bit slow. I'm here in Florida. We just went through Hurricane Ian, but thankfully we have Wi-Fi. All right, so this is the structure on ETH. Okay, now you know that we were looking at this as a rough distribution top. Okay, so you could even call it a head and shoulders. All right, but now we need to look at how the structure took place and what happened. Okay, so we have this first peak, we have this second peak, and then we have this last point of supply, which is that failed higher high here. Okay, again, daily chart. Failed higher high, bull market notices, sell off. Okay, now what happens in a distribution top is that normally after these first set of structures, we get the dump and an accumulation around this support level. Okay, so this support that this range has been using, we get like an accumulation or a consolidation around that level before we dump. Okay, which is what happened. Now, what I'm eyeing is that this is another support. Okay, major support. What I see here is a deviation below that support. Okay, so that's a relatively strong indicator, right? Of hey, we're not going lower, and there's actually more strength in this market than we thought. Okay, and so bigger players go ahead and accumulate. Again, on these long positions, you can see the longs accumulate throughout this range, and we get this bump up. Okay, a lot of them dump here, and so we get the sell off. All right, at resistance. Similar to Bitcoin, we have this macro descending trend line that we're using as resistance every time we come in on a lower time frame. We put in a bearish or negative divergence here, and we get a sell off. Okay, we've been shorting that regularly. So now we have this deviation, and here we have the retest of the flipped now support, which was once resistance, right? And again, you can see the volume not necessarily increasing, but there's a lot of volume coming in here, okay, during this structure. And that tells me, look at the volume here, okay? And then you start to get this increase in volume, right? And these increases in volume is usually when we get some sort of accumulation is happening, okay? And you can see slightly here, not as much on this run, but ETH longs are starting to increase throughout this structure, all right? So the flip deviation, we have the volume here, retest now of support, which was once resistance, okay? And similar to Bitcoin, guys, we're going to be looking for this retest here, which is going to be roughly 16,000. Okay, timing could dictate exactly where we end up, how bullish this gets, but we're going to be looking at roughly 16,000 there. Okay, we can also draw this trend line here, which will give us our second. Okay, and we're going to be looking at roughly 2,000. Okay, for that second, and again, we'll see exactly what's happening with the longs. We'll see if we get any divergences and the type, and primarily, remember, always price action first. We'll see what type of structures we get in price action at these resistance levels, okay? But ultimately, just like Bitcoin, I think that we're going to see lower lows. Now, keep in mind, let's say Bitcoin, guys, let's say Bitcoin is about to run, okay? Remember these cycles. Bitcoin always runs, then it's ETH, and then you have major and smaller alts, right? And so if we have these massive longs taking place in Bitcoin, but not ETH, this actually matches with the typical crypto cycle, right? Of Bitcoin, accumulation of Bitcoin first, then ETH. And so if we see this metric dump as we're nearing resistance, right, we'll go ahead and see what's going on ETH to see if the longs are running on that. All right, so that's what we're looking at on Bitcoin and ETH, guys, and Cardano, okay? So Cardano, guys, the reason why I love Cardano, and there's a couple of alts like AVAX, Polkadot as well, that are setting up similarly, but Cardano, and it's the reason why we've taken a long position in Cardano, one of the clearest, very, very clean phases and structures and events in this structure, and this is the Wyckoff accumulation. We're looking at schematic 2, which puts in this higher low, okay, in phase C, or last point of support. And this again, guys, this accumulation, which is the opposite of distribution, this accumulation is when bigger players are getting into the market and starting to accumulate, okay? And this is extremely, extremely, extremely textbook. Okay, we have this selling climax, right? And then we have this automatic rally. So we're buying off a support. Okay, we have this secondary test, and then we have a retest of the range high. Okay, and then we kind of trickle down to a lower low, okay, which is our secondary test in our main structural phase of phase B. Okay, we have a rally off of the bottom of the range. Okay, we don't usually retest it, but come up short. Okay, that's what also similar to what we saw on Bitcoin, similar to what we saw on ETH. We have this descending wedge, which tends to take place in it as well. Okay, but what we have is this almost a retest of the high. We have a failed attempt there. We have that sell off, and then this phase C can play out in two different ways. We can have this failed lower low, right? And we can put in a higher low, which gives us our last point of support. Or what you've probably heard a lot about is that spring, where we get the spring, where we get that false breakdown of the range, giving a lower low, but then popping back up into the range, and then we go ahead and get higher, right? But this structure is giving us a clear schematic 2 version, giving us the last point of support. If we look at the weekly, this is going to look like a double bottom. And if we have it on the daily, you're getting, again, that positive divergence, okay, at this level. And so this is roughly what we're going to be looking for. Obviously, we'll get some chop. It's not just going to go parabolic up, right? But this is the rough structure. We'll stair step our way up. Similar like we talked about on the distribution, at that support or at that support of distribution, resistance of accumulation, we get that consolidation right up at this level, before the market confirms, okay, we jumped over this, now we're ready to go, and we see that markup phase. Okay, so this also fits that local bottom thesis and theory, right? And so we have all these things pointed together that we think that we see upside from here ultimately. And then last thing, guys, if we just look at the SPY really quick, right? We're coming into this major support as well. Okay. If you've been following us also, we let you know that this was a massive shorting opportunity, right? Similar at this resistance that we've had on the other on crypto assets. Okay. In this blue box we had for a long time, and we got that sell off. Now coming into this big support level that we have, if this will start to run, that we have here, tested this multiple times, got rejected, and finally pulled off after some consolidation and retest, and then made the high. But this is going to be a significant level. Okay, so all of those accumulation patterns or structures or bottoming structures that are happening in crypto, that also matches up with the SPY pulling into support. All right, so all of these things are setting up for a relatively good risk to reward ratio. Now, remember, yes, the macro backdrop is terrible, right? Absolutely terrible. The only thing I'll say to that is that I 100% agree, and that's part of the reason why we're still overall bearish and that we still see overall lows. But I think that a temporary rally is coming. In all of these risk on assets, a lot because yes, the structures like we've talked about, but also because of the sentiment in the market, right? everybody is bearish right now, and so that's usually the time where the bigger players who know, or people that really are experienced in the markets, that is when the scariest time to buy is the time that you buy. So that's what we're looking at, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and hit the subscribe. Also send it to somebody that you think would enjoy this and get a lot out of it. Let us know if you have any questions. Check out our website. We have a bunch of different trading tools, guys. I can promise you, if you learn and put in the effort to trade, you can truly change your life. Guys, thanks for sticking around. We'll see you in the next video.